Iron Maiden's second studio album, Killers, was released on the 16th of February 1981. The band had toured relentlessly after releasing their debut album the previous year, headlining their own shows in the UK, as well as opening for both Kiss and Judas Priest. Guitarist Dennis Stratton left the band in October 1980, officially due to musical differences. Stratton later clarified that his interest in softer rock such as Foreigner, Journey and the Eagles caused some friction, particularly with the band's manager Rod Smallwood. He was replaced by Adrian Smith, a childhood friend of Maiden's other guitarist Dave Murray. The pair had previously played together in their own bands, Stone Free and Urchin. Smith had been asked to join Maiden in 1979, but chose to stick with Urchin at the time as they had a recording contract. That was short-lived though, and the band eventually broke up in early 1980. Killers entered the UK charts at number 12, slightly disappointing considering Maiden's first album peaked at number 4. It did chart fairly well around Europe, and also entered the US Billboard 200, reaching a high of 78. The album received mixed reviews from the UK's music press, with Sounds magazine, who had previously championed Maiden, giving it a particularly scathing 1 out of 5.
Just outrageous.
Kicking off side 1 is instrumental The Ides of March, Maiden's shortest ever track at 1 minute 48 seconds. Though credited solely on Killers to Steve Harris, it was originally written when Barry Purkis, aka Thunderstick, was briefly in Iron Maiden between 1977 and 1978. Purkis would go on to replace Clive Burr in fellow new wave of British heavy metal trailblazers Samson. Their 1980 album Head On featured an almost identical song called Thunderburst, which Harris was credited for along with the rest of the band, including future Maiden vocalist Bruce Dickinson. The track's name, referencing the death of Julius Caesar, hints at the themes of murder, revenge and paranoia running through much of the album. Clive Burr's thunderous drumming, with Smith and Murray's twin guitars backed up by Harris's killer bass, provide a perfect starter, priming the listener for the rest of the album to follow. For me, this one's a 9 out of 10. An early version of Rothschild, along with another Maiden track, Sanctuary, had already appeared on the new wave of British heavy metal compilation album Metal for Mothers, released in February 1980. The Killers version is played at a faster tempo though, and is vastly superior. It's probably the best known track on the album, and unquestionably a fan favourite. Di'Anno just owns this song, it's tailor-made for him, and he totally delivers. Harris's bass groove is awesome, and the whole track just bristles with energy and attitude. And despite having played it to death, this bit still gets me every time. Definitely a 10 out of 10. One of 3 songs written after the release of their debut album, the others being Prodigal Son and Genghis Khan. Murders in the Rue Morgue features some excellent lyrics by Steve Harris. Inspired by the Edgar Allan Poe short story of the same name, the song's protagonist is on the run after being falsely accused of murdering 2 young women in Paris. However, the last 2 lines offer a twist in the tale and cast doubt on his innocence. This is another top-notch song. The superbly atmospheric opening gives way to the first verse, with Di'Anno recounting the story at breakneck speed. The solo is relatively short here, but fits in perfectly as it's all about the story told through the verses. The rest of the band are on fire, with brilliant drumming from Clive Burr in particular. It's a 9 out of 10. Another Life is a strange song. It doesn't have a chorus, and it's basically just one verse repeated 3 times. While that could just be that Steve Harris didn't have the time or inclination to come up with any more lyrics, for me it actually works, given the song appears to be about someone contemplating suicide. The repetition just emphasises the same thoughts playing over and over on this person's mind. Musically, it's a pretty straightforward rocker, but the band once again elevate it to another level. There's a feeling that's inside me, telling me to get away. Some people don't rate it, but I really like it, so for me, it's a 9 out of 10. Evoking images of the Mongolian army riding into battle, Genghis Khan is, uniquely for Maiden, the album's second instrumental. Apparently it was written pretty quickly during recording as the band was short on material. You'd never guess though, as it's an absolutely cracking tune. Clive Burr once again shines here. He really was a phenomenal drummer. 9 out of 10. Innocent Exile can be seen as a companion song to Murders in the Rue Morgue, as it continues to explore the theme of a wrongly accused fugitive. This one has a great bass line from Steve Harris, and some brilliant soloing from Murray and Smith. The first half of the song is good, but the second half is awesome and builds to a satisfying ending, closing out side 1. Another 9 out of 10. Killers, written by Di'Anno and Harris, gets things started on side 2 in epic fashion. This is one of my all-time favourite Maiden songs. Di'Anno is just fantastic on this. The intro, with jangly guitars over Harris's foreboding bass line, is so atmospheric. The lyrics are really effective as well, swapping from third person to first person in the repeated last verse. They do an absolutely brilliant job of conveying the total insanity of the killer. You walk through the subway, his eyes burn a hole in your back. The whole band is once again on fire, with great riffs, solos and drumming, and the overall feel of this song is just perfectly embodied by the album artwork. Oh yeah! 10 out of 10, no question. Things slow down a bit with Prodigal Son, which is a Maiden song that tends to fly under the radar. It's a really nice ballad, inspired by the biblical parable of the same name, though here the protagonist appears to be begging Lamia to help save his soul from the devil. In mythology, the name Lamia is associated with a female demon. The song has a different, semi-acoustic feel compared to the rest of the album, with a couple of great solos from Smith and Murray. Interestingly, Maiden have never played this song live. For me, it's still a 9 out of 10. Things switch back up into overdrive with Purgatory, the second single off the album with Genghis Khan on the B-side. There's a story that the Number of the Beast album artwork by Derek Riggs was supposed to be for this release. Rod Smallwood thought it was too good for just a single though, locked it in a cupboard and asked Riggs to paint an alternative. However, I've seen Riggs himself relate this same story about the Number of the Beast single, which kind of makes more sense, I guess. It's another kick-ass song, with the upbeat tempo contrasting the darker lyrical theme. Dave Murray and Adrian Smith's guitar interplay is particularly impressive, and the drumming is again superb. Purgatory only reached number 52 on the UK charts, perhaps because the album was already out, so most fans had it anyway. 9 out of 10. Drifter always seemed like the odd man out on the album, as lyrically it's much more of an optimistic song. Given its sing-along nature, the song was used as a closer for many Maiden shows in the Di'Anno era. It has a great Adrian Smith solo, and like Innocent Exile on side 1, builds to a satisfying ending, with Di'Anno's wails and screams rounding things off nicely. In my opinion, it's probably the weakest song on the album, but it's still very, very good. For me, it's an 8 out of 10. Twilight Zone, credited to Dave Murray and Steve Harris, was the lead single for Killers, but didn't appear on the album itself, at least in the UK. The song did appear on the US and Japanese versions of the album though. As it wasn't included on the UK version, I won't be including it in my overall score. Twilight Zone was released as a double A-side with Rothchild. According to Steve Harris, the band didn't have enough money to make a video, but did have footage of them playing Rothchild if something was needed for TV. The song reached number 31 on the UK singles chart. Di'Anno shows surprising vocal range here, and it's a nice enough song, though nothing special. 7 out of 10. After a frustrating experience with the production on their debut album, Maiden recruited hard rock and metal producer Martin Birch, who had previously worked with the likes of Deep Purple, Rainbow, Whitesnake and Black Sabbath. The result is much more polished than the first album, while still retaining the raw energy and aggressive sound the band was known for. The guitars in particular are much fuller and richer than on the first album. There isn't anything unexpected or out of the box, but everything is just done really, really well. Martin Birch would go on to produce all of Maiden's albums up to and including Fear of the Dark. 9 out of 10. The Killers album cover is one of Derek Riggs' best for Iron Maiden. It's an absolutely iconic image and can still be seen on all sorts of merch to this day. The little details like the cats, the Ruskin arms in the background, and the voyeuristic nature of the windows in the buildings add immensely to the overall atmosphere. But Eddie takes centre stage, and this, in my opinion, is one of the definitive depictions of our favourite band mascot. Absolutely a 10 out of 10 for me. Killers is unquestionably a great album. Compared to its predecessor, the production is definitely much better. However, the songs on the first album just edge it overall for me. There's no filler by any stretch of the imagination, and repeatability is still very high. Maybe it's just that the very best songs come at the start of each side. It's still a 9 out of 10 though. So, overall, we have 10 songs on the album, with a total score of 91. Adjusting that to a score out of 70 gives us 64. Adding in the scores for production, art design, and listenability gives us a final total of 92 out of 100, making Iron Maiden's Killers a groundbreaking album. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. See you next time on Heavy Rock Revolution.